Do you believe kids shouldn't be on social media till 16?
I think there should be age limits on social media. Whether 16 is the correct age or not is something that is the subject of live debate at the moment.
Do you have a personal view on what's an appropriate age? 13, 14, 15?
I have a personal view that minors are very susceptible, and I know from my own experience that as their brains are developing at those ages, there's no clear guidance as to kids are different, people are different, but we know that within those ages of, say, 13 to 16, they are vulnerable ages for development. But again, a lot of the research is in on this, but a lot of opinion is out at the moment on how this can actually be implemented in practice. And,
well, that's
as a parent,
right.
Yeah, I mean, as a parent, I'm concerned about what my 12-year-old accesses. I am heartened by the fact that my 7-year-old came home the other day and pointed to her face and said, "This is the face of a smart digital citizen," because she is learning about it at school. But this is a topic that I'm very glad the media has highlighted. I think it has a conversation started, and it's one that the government has been pursuing for some time right across government when it comes to, for example, children's privacy, which the Attorney-General is working on at the moment, to consent issues, as my colleague Amanda Rishworth's working on at the moment. But it really is a collective effort. It's one where we need to be evidence-based, not looking for headlines, but looking for evidence-based. But it's clear that around the world and around Australia, people are very concerned about what is happening to kids' exposure from social media.
Has the horse already bolted here? I mean, you've probably got every under 16-year-old on social media, so how do you turn that around?
We are in probably the second generation of digital natives. But Andrew, the counterfactual is to do nothing. And this government is determined to make the internet safer, to make social media safer. We know that this is part of the embedded life of these young people now. We used to talk about an online world and an offline world. There's one world. And social media does have many benefits for not only people in society at large, but also for a number of children who mightn't be capable of fitting in certain circumstances. They find a voice through social media. They find a voice through gaming, for example. So I think the consensus is it does have positives and negatives. The key issue here for government is to ensure that we strike that right balance, that it's evidence-based and that it's effective.
Because I think you spoke about doing it through the platforms, in which case you'd need the cooperation of the media companies. But we've seen with this case, with X or Twitter, when it came to this footage of the stabbing at the church in Western Sydney, the temporary injunction was lifted by the courts. It tells us it's just not easy to police this stuff, doesn't it? It
is complex, and there is no jurisdiction that has gotten this right yet. In Australia, we are fortunate on a number of fronts. We have our own standalone regulator in the E-Safety Commissioner. We quadrupled base funding so that task can continue those tasks can continue to be undertaken effectively. We have an Online Safety Act, which we are reviewing at the moment. It only came into force in the beginning of 2022. But at that time, generative AI wasn't even known as a common term, and so many new harms have emerged. So in Australia, we are fortunate we do have those regulatory frameworks, but you are absolutely right. We are up against these giant companies, multinationals who have more power, money and global influence than some standalone nations. They have deep pockets, they are highly litigious, but that is no reason why they should not be subject to Australian law, and we should seek to enforce Australian law.
So, but you have always got an issue with holding people like Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk to account, don't you? They're in another country.
As Frances Haugen, the Facebook whistleblower, has said, these giant platforms, they fear one thing, accountability. And that's one of the reasons why we have established this joint parliamentary committee to get some accountability and transparency on some of the very opaque practices that they have. That's important. But I want to be clear here, there's no magic pill. This issue is being addressed from a number of areas, including media literacy, $6 million that we committed to the Alana and Madeline Foundation for every school to have access to these media literacy tools. We've got the E-Safety Commissioner having quadrupling of its base funding. It is a collective effort. I'm reviewing the basic online safety expectations at the moment that go to a number of issues that go to a requirement for the platforms to act in the best interests of the child. So we're addressing this from a number of fronts. It is a collective responsibility, and this government takes the view that doing nothing is not an option in this area.